As a business owner with no formal schooling, I owe a lot to books. In fact, aside from experience, the School of Hard Knocks, they've taught me most of what I know about business and have played a huge role in my success. Here's a list of my top 6 books that have changed my life. If you haven't already read these, then I'd recommend you pick them up ASAP because they'll be well worth your time. These aren't necessarily new books, and you've probably heard of a lot, if not all of them, but they're books that if you haven't already read, I would put high on your priority list to read before this year is over. You still have time, so why not get 3 of these books that can really have a big impact on your life? So the very first one on my stack here is this one, The 4-Hour Workweek. If you haven't read this book, I mean, I'm gonna say that about every single book. If you haven't read this book, it is worth checking out. It really lives up to the hype. Even if you think you are not interested in this topic, even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're happy in your 9-to-5 job, it is worth it because Tim Ferriss breaks down the art of unconventional living and really helps to open your mind and helps you to think outside the box in terms of what's possible for your life and helps you to challenge just some conventions of society about how things have to be. Okay, my next book here is another business book. I promise these aren't all business books, but this one is for just anyone who's an entrepreneur. I was so skeptical of this book before I bought it and read it because I saw a lot of sleazy ads for this book called Dotcom Secrets. It's by Russell Brunson, and just like the design of it didn't appeal to me. I was judging it by its cover and by the sleazy ads, but then I happened to notice one day that it has a whole lot of really good reviews on Amazon, like thousands of really good reviews. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not just some weird scam. So I bought it and I read it. And this is honestly the best book I've ever read about digital marketing. So if you're trying to learn how to start an online business, or especially how to market your online business, even if you've been in the game for a while, this I would say is a must read. Okay, don't be scared. I know that this book is giant and I know that it has a boring title, but hear me out, okay? So it's this book right here. It's called Basic Economics. It is by Thomas Sowell, who is a genius economist. This book is really big, and I am reading it for the second time, and I'm about halfway through it. I don't know if you can see my bookmark here. I read it back in high school, and now I'm reading it again, and they have expanded it. This is the 5th edition, and they've just expanded it and expanded it, adding in more and more stories and anecdotes. If you have not read a really solid economics textbook, then you are missing out on understanding how the world works. Just rereading this, my eyes are like reopened as to just how so many different things work and why so many different things are the way that they are. Anyway, this book, I know it looks huge and scary. I'm actually right now listening to it and reading it. So I'll kind of like listen to a couple chapters, and then when I have time to sit down and read a couple chapters, I do, because I love reading, but I mean, who seriously has time to read this giant book? The audio book version of this, the Audible version, is excellent as well. It's read very well. It's very readable. And even though this book is huge and some parts of it are a little dry, it is packed with stories and really interesting anecdotes. And even if you think you're not interested in the topic of economics, I would recommend checking it out. Now, if you are completely just terrified by the size of this book and intimidated and it looks super boring, there's another book that I would also recommend called Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt, and it's a lot shorter and a lot easier to get through. I actually think that this book is more interesting and just full of like more interesting information and stories, but the other one is way shorter and an easier read. And like I said, if you haven't read a good economics book, then you just don't know what you're missing. Now, to contrast with that, my next book pick is super short, and that is this tiny little book here called One Small Step Can Change Your Life, The Kaizen Way. And this book is by Robert Maurer. And this book is just, I mean, it's a short, easy read. It's a super easy read. And it's just about the idea that even taking tiny little steps in the right direction can have a big impact on your life. It kind of sounds like one of those books where you read the title and you know exactly what it's about, but it really fleshes out this idea a lot, and it helps you to see different ways that this concept can be applied to your life. And I've just found myself come back to this book over and over and over, both the book itself, but also the concept. It was a concept that I found really easy to internalize and actually apply to my life, which is something that cannot always be said for a lot of personal development, self-help, business books. A lot of them sound great when you're reading the book, but then they can be really difficult to actually apply. This one I found life-changing because it was so easy to apply. And because of the way it changed my thinking, it helped me be a lot more motivated to do things and to get a lot more things done and to feel better about myself and like not beat myself up so much about, not being where I necessarily want to be. Okay, the next book, I don't have a physical copy here. I'm sure we'll add an image up here of it. And it is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm sure you've heard of this book before. Maybe you've read it. It's a really good book though. And I would say that it's one of these books that I heard about for a long time and I thought, I probably know what that book is about. It sounds pretty straightforward, sounds pretty boring, but I was surprisingly impressed by the book itself and just by the lessons that I learned from it and how well the author, Stephen Covey, really explained them and helped me to internalize them. So kind of like this tiny book right here, it wasn't just some good information, it actually had an impact on my life. And then finally, I don't think any list of books that could change your life would be complete without mentioning the Bible. If you haven't read it, then I would recommend checking it out and finding out what all the hype is about so that you know what you're potentially missing out on. And if you have read it, read it again, read it some more. It is the book that I read the very most and I come back to time and time again, and definitely the book that has had the most profound impact on my life. Well, there you have it, my top 6 picks for books for you to read before the end of this year. If you haven't already, these are the books that have had the biggest impact on my life and that I recommend non-stop. So if you haven't already read these, be sure to check them out. And of course, if you have any book recommendations, please do share in the comments below. Specifically, tell me what book has had the biggest impact on your life because I would love to know. I'm just really curious, but also if I haven't read it, I will definitely want to check it out. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, like 90% of the people who watch my videos, then be sure to hit that subscribe button right now so that you can, in fact, join me for my next video because I make new videos every single week and I would love to have you here again. Thank you so much for joining me and I'll see you back next time. In case you happen to have already read all of those books, I've got 4 more quick recommendations for you. This is rapid fire mode. Fahrenheit 451, The Obstacle is the Way, The Case for a Creator, and Total Money Makeover.